tube on the end cap.
Yeah, I'd leave it like that. Don't change anything until you actually make a part.
No, I wasn't going to.
Where can I hang this? I don't want to forget this thing.
Like Sparky tail. Put it over there. Well, put it by the door over there. Or
Oh, no.
There, right here. Right there.
And the thing, I did 4 of them puppies.
There we are.
They weren't easy for a guy that never had any machining in his life. No DRO.
There we go. What?
Now see on this thing here, what I was telling you, you don't worry about these dials. You come over here with a big old mag, you bring a dial indicator out here.
Yeah.
So as you're cranking this thing.
You do that with your lathe too. My lathe works than that thing as far as running.
Yeah.
Stuff.
All right, we got 2 watchers and 1 already.
Wait a minute, hold on, man. I'll give you a thumbs up.
Got 3 and 3. Okay. We got the prop that we worked on last night. Dan has cut some plastic for the mold box. Sorry about the late delay, but there's other stuff going on. Here, I brought you a couple of these that I made, John.
Cool. Thanks.
You know, this is only frosted on one side.
Let's hand it off.
No, we're gonna leave that on there. That's nice. So you get a choice. Do you want a frosted mold, a matte finish, or you want a gloss finish?
I don't want a gloss thing.
Okay. You know, I was thinking the other day when I got this, I'm thinking, sort of nice if you're doing a mold, when it's clear, you can see if you've got any voids or air bubbles by looking through this plastic. Yeah, this plastic, guys, I don't know what it is, what, 3/8 or something, 1/2 inch, what do you think this is, Spark? Half.
Yeah.
I brought some 1/4 inch, thinking we might use it, but the thicker the better, as long as it's flat and straight. And it's easier, it's more stable, like you can see where it's sitting on edge. And you'll see when we make this box, it's basically just sitting there and we clamp it and then we weight it down. So we're not actually gluing this box together.
Good morning, Alex. Good morning, Alan. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I gotta say it 100 times. Good morning, hello, good evening. You got any seat temp, John?
Look over it in that corner on top of on the top. Might be laying there.
Where, here?
Back in that corner, the one laying right up there on the workbench.
I don't see it, but I'm not real good at seeing it.
Here's a little tip for you guys.
Huh?
If you deal with plastic, instead of sanding it, you can
Varnish it. I got a tool for it.
Yeah. You can just take a blade Another thing they do, if you're making signs or paper holders or stuff, what they do is they flame the edge. So they get as smooth as they can, and they'll take a propane torch and they'll fan the edge. And that micro melts it. So you get a really slick edge. It'll almost go from frosted to clear again.
Yeah, I know.
You fan it with a torch.
Like 3/4 ounce stuff.
So, let me see if this is.
What are these for?
Yeah, I don't know. No, you don't need to worry about it.
There's a knife up here somewhere.
Right there in front of you.
Any closer to big? How much tow do you think it's gonna take to a prop? How many feet, John? Dan?
I'd have to look. I've got it in the little book at home. I didn't bring it. I should have. I used to keep a recipe and the ingredients to each prop. I guarantee you one thing though, it's going to take you twice as much as a 2-blade.
I wonder how you figured that one out.
It's advanced math. Hey, do you have a sanding block I can run down there?
Underneath the table right there. If they're dull, we can stick some newspaper on it.
Dull is better, for this stuff. Just gonna try to clean some of the edges off here.
I think I'm gonna take this out of the airplane and mark it, because my top is sharper than that.
Okay, you want a fresh magic marker or something?
Yeah, that'll be good.
I was cutting this with a track saw and it's slippery plastic. The track had slid a little bit, and I got a edge is not quite.
Here, let me see that C-pin real quick, and I'll see if that stuff might not clean off of there.
I need to go to a plastic place and see if I can get a really good replacement for C-temp. C-temp is different than Mylar and some of this other stuff. It's sort of got a rubbery consistency to it, doesn't it?
Kinda.
To see how the thick plastic is nice because you just set it there and it stays vertical on you. So it's easier to build a box.
You don't wanna screw this together so you can knock it apart.
Yeah, you don't need to. What we're gonna, as far as screwing it together, when you have a box like this, you just clamp it, lay the clamps and squeeze it.
You gonna drill a hole in the center for the 1/4-inch rod?
Nope. It's gonna have, this will be clayed up, and the drill rod is gonna be, the prop is actually gonna hold the drill rod. So, the neat thing about this, let's just say Sparky wanted to do a 2-bladed prop down the road. And what you can do with this type of setup, you can make 2 shorter blocks. So you can just, reuse these plastic pieces to consider any size and shape you want.
I would like to take that other Zor that I got and make a 2-blade out of it. That other 2.
Yeah. So I just like this, just get different lengths on a chop saw. You just knock these things out. And the way this is coming together, we've got a really small box. It pretty much matches the prop, so there's not going to be any waste. And I don't know if you can tell, we got this thing to where these blades come almost to the edge. And what we'll do when we pour this mold, once it's cured, we'll go in there with a Dremel and we'll relieve the end of this mold. So that way the carbon toe will extend outside of the mold, as you lay it out. And then the excess resin.
One other question I had, are we gonna lay them all the way across or around and then out back or what?
What I do, well, I'd go from here to here, from here to here. So you're actually wrapping the post. And then I'd go here and here. And then I'd go here and wrap the post this way. And I'd wrap the post this way. And I just keep building it up. So I'd wrap the post from this direction and this direction, and I go straight, and that would pretty much cover the whole thing. So you never know exactly the recipe of toe until you actually lay one up and look at it. So yeah, I think we're good to go on the box. So this drill rod, John, what I want to do is
pick it up off the floor.
Drop it on the floor first thing. I want to cut this end off because you can see on this drill rod, a little rusty, and they cut it by a shear.
I wouldn't cut it.
So I'm thinking all this would be cut off. And here's a good scientific way to do this. You just go like this.
That looks about right.
That's how long we want this drill rod. Yeah, that's how long we want this drill rod. So yeah, cut this section out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Dremel tool and I'm going to grind a little indentation in that. And then on your mill, we're going to clamp this in. It doesn't have to be 90 or perfect. We're just going to get an 1/8 inch hole in there, or maybe the next size over if you have a wire drill. Next size over 1/8, we're going to drill a hole.
Can you put a handle in to pull it out?
Yeah, so what it's going to be is we're going to have a piece of music wire, and it's going to fit in that hole so we can pull it out. Because once this thing is in the prop and you're laying up the prop, the top of the mold has got to go over the top of this.
Right.
So that T-handle has to come out, and that T-handle has to fit in that hole with a countersunk. It's because you don't want a burr there because you won't be able to get the top of the mold over it. So that's the idea behind that. Now, the other thing I told Sparky, don't ever use music wire, and I've done it once. It was the first time and last time because the music wire will lock itself in the mold. And all music wire is different, I'm sure, but the stuff I had was 0.5 of a thousandths. So, and it's sort of wavy when they straighten it. So if you use music wire instead of drill rod, you might not be able to get it out of the mold. But when you wax this and you put the release, you get the T-handle, you'll turn it, you hear it click, and then you'll be able to work it out. Music wire I couldn't get out. So you got a way to chop that off?
I'm sure.
Let me go.
Like a cut off wheel or something.
Or right there, one of them babies. I'm like Sparky, I come over here and just want all your tools.
You gotta know where everything's at.
These are readers, they're not goggles, but pliers. What I like to do, I really don't like to grind all the way through it. I'll go so far and just crack it off. The reason why I don't like going all the way through, it'll start to bend and it'll catch the disc.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good.
Always come up from the basement with a big black spot on my belly.
Well, the other thing, I used to wear white t-shirts and the metal dust gets in there. So when you wash it, you have a rust spot.
There's we got a bench grinder in there here. It's not bolted down, but it'll work.
Morning, Chris.
There's some water in that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Is it plugged in?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure. There we go.
Maybe you can sand that stuff down.
That's like a jet engine. That thing spools up.
Use this one. And then,
Hold on to it.
We got so much going on today. It's like the
yeah, I
skunk,
wish that
we got. It's like the skunk works.
Okay.
grinder was variable speed.
That is.
I wish it was.
How much do you think that pulls?
I don't know. You can see the lights dim sometimes.
Yeah, I was
Turn
gonna-
it on. It's a cheapie.
I was
Could
gonna
see
say-
the lights dim when Dan turned on his machine in the garage, or when you were out there doing whatever you were doing.
Really?
The garage lights went boom.
Oh wow. So I was gonna say you could run that grinder off a Variac if it'd probably stay under 5 amps. It's got a soft start on it, so it's
What I want is what I want is about $1,000, but I'd like to have one that I could set up. I want a milling bit grinder, or
Surface grinder.
yeah.
no, well,
It goes.
no, it was one that's made for grinding end mills and stuff. And it's got a little indexer, and it holds your end mill, and it'll turn it and index it just right, and then the grinding head will turn all different directions on there to get all your angles right. They're super expensive.
Okay, this done. You can put that in the vise with a drill bit. Give me a hole at an 1/8 wire or 50.
Right in that notch.
Yeah, the drill bit that will sort of center.
You want that a flat bottom notch?
No, because it's concave this way and this way. So that drill bit, when you lower it, you'll see it'll
Yeah, it's gonna wanna.
Well,
that way.
but just move the vise until you find the happy spot and just drill it. Just peck it a few times, you'll be good. Yeah, what Sparky's doing on his canopy, he's probably already told you. To get the canopy to match the fuselage, he's gonna sand the plug in. I know you like these things.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, let me see your resin services book. What did you do with that in here? So John ordered some resin. And he got this book. This is one of them that I've had since year 2000. And what they've done here is they've divided it up. Surface coats, laminating, casting, adhesives and paste, polyesters and board stock. And I'm going to compare his catalog, which is up to date. See if it matches mine. They've probably added some things in here. What they've added, I'm going to make a note of it. And take a picture of it. So first, 6-3. Okay, let me show you something here. You're gonna mill that flat in there, aren't you?
No, I'm sitting and finding cinder drill. So
Oh, okay, yeah,
it's real stiff and won't
Yeah.
go all over.
all right.
I'll run the vacuum for a second. Pick it up.
You know what, John, so far it's pretty much just, they have each page exactly in the same order as mine.
So that's the catalog, and that way they can find it.
Yeah, they've got it. This is 21 years ago, though. You know, a lot of stuff happens in 21 years.
Yeah.
Let me put that in here. Another thing that's good about these spec sheets, Sparky ordered some casting for this prop, and he ordered 506, I believe it was. HTC 506 is 560. Did you bring that down?
I didn't.
Okay, it's probably still in the garage.
I ordered whatever you told me to order.
So with resin services, you go with these spec sheets, and they'll have a curing agent for HTR 250 and 9234. And over here on the casting, the 560, you can also use 9234. There's one discrepancy I found on this casting, HAC 560 to 9234. It shows 10 parts per hundredweight. And on the can they sent me, HAC 560 9234 stated at 15 parts per hundredweight. And I had to change that in the catalog. So for some reason, this catalog was mismarked. Maybe it's for one of these other curing agents, but the 9234 is 15 parts per hundredweight. Because I wrote that in the book. I remember I made a casting, it wasn't right. And
I've got that written down somewhere. They told me up there what the mix ratio was in that for the prop itself.
yeah. Yeah.
Barbara gets on me all the time because I got all these little notes written with one little thing. I'm reading all these little notes. Can I throw this away? Can I throw this away? I said, no, it's got something.
What'd you do? Just order the same thing I ordered exactly?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the tank resin.
But you got,
That's all I got is tank resin. I didn't get mold making stuff.
oh, you didn't get the
No.
mold making stuff.
No, that's $150 worth of stuff in itself.
Yeah.
For a gallon of that stuff.
It'll go a long way.
Is this gonna be okay, Dan?
Perfect.
You wanna use 8-inch wire, right, or something nominally close to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I gotta get the 1/8-inch wire to go through it. So John and Sparky ordered the resin for this prop. And it's an HTR 250.
You want that just a slip fit or a press fit?
Split, I gotta slide it in there by hand.
Okay, so you can't leave it in there.
Right. Just gotta. So on this actual making the prop, not the mold. Find it here. This is when you're laying up the carbon. HTR 250. 1063. Yeah, I think they changed the formulation on some of this stuff. I better look through the new.
Yeah, they may have.
See, they got HTL instead of HTR. And let me see what's in this. Okay, HTR 250. 24 parts per hundredweight. One 63. in this catalog, they got HTR and HTL. When you're looking through here, you gotta make sure that you get everything exactly right. The laminating takes a different ratio. The HTR, this is HTR, which is what you wanted. So with this resin that John and Sparky got, HTR 250 1063 is 24 parts per 100 rate. And it's on this gallon here. And that hardener he's got on this casting, you can also use it in this here. If you use the 1063 and you post cure this at 350, this part will be good for 375 degrees. So
Yeah, they had a
Yeah.
higher temperature epoxy. You could have gotten it went up to 500
Yeah.
or something, or 575 or something like that. I said,
Oh, yeah.
don't need something that hot. Takes that much heat.
So normally when you buy a hobby shop resin, you don't know exactly what you've got. With this stuff, you go with this.
Take a look at this, Mr. Cemetery.
So if you take your fuselage, you know, you don't have a whole lot of dip yet. But you fit here, here. If you take this stick on your fuselage, look at the gap, and then bring it over here, and basically you want the same.
There it is, the trace.
Yeah. So this is the tracing of the fuse. Here, and there. So basically, you want the same. You gotta get a little bit more right out of the center. Right back here is the line, so basically right here,
Yeah. Line.
so this is where you gotta work on it. Forgot how good this stuff smells.
I know, that's how good.
So,
It sounds as easy as Superfill.
yeah,
I wonder if it's the same material.
yeah, it's probably got some properties. The other thing, Spark, let's say you just got this maybe just a hair too deep, wouldn't matter because it would spring, you know. It doesn't have to be exact, you know, but I can see there's a big gap. And the trouble is, if you take this canopy and you try to conform it to that turtle deck,
Yeah, when it heats up.
yeah, it's always going to want to fight against the spring. Closer you can get it, the better.
Or even undersized.
Yeah, so it's pinching instead of,
Pinching instead of springing.
yeah. So I just use a straight edge. I don't know how straight this is, but just go down there, see it's starting to hollow out a little bit. This one's really proud here, and it might be this side here. So just work it.
You'd have seen Billy's plug. It was just a wood plug,
Pretty crude.
triangle on a stick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember that, John?
Yeah.
Said, nah, we ain't messing with this.
Well, my first one,
It was just like this,
Yeah.
only in a teepee on a stick.
yeah, but the thing is, I mean, Billy was looking for one canopy. You know, not so much repeatability. Or one, maybe a half dozen. This side, you're gonna have to work more, but, Here's something good and straight. Use this to gauge. So anyway, real quick, if it's still online, right here. It's got everything they make in there, the spec sheets, the cure rate.
We got 10 watchers.
So it's in these books.
Good morning, everybody.
Let's see. Okay, John, here's some glass I brought from the house. And enough to do one tank, probably. You see that?
Mm-hmm. That's a set.
Yeah. It's fairly tight. Yeah. Yeah. Either one, but you can experiment with them. This stuff works out great for the outside layer, and it's 2 ounce for wheel pants and fuse molds for plugs and all kinds of stuff. Oh man, that's like a $50 part. You hear that part? You look like you're buying lunch.
Yeah.
What I do, John, I take this. You already sort of put it down anyway.
To the file too.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that. Oh, dang. So, yeah, this right here is not critical because there's no.
No, I just didn't want to burr there. You
Oh,
set
yeah.
your finger on it and cut
Yeah.
yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's not critical as far as.
Could have gotten that hole a little tighter than that.
No, this is perfect. Matter of fact, that's perfect.
That one size bigger than that.
Yeah, that's what you want.
As tight as I can get.
That's exactly what you want. So, that'll pull it out.
You want to take these. Oh, you already did that on the grinder.
Yeah. So these.
Yeah, the drill rod's a lot straighter
Yeah.
than music line.
So this will. Be positioned like that. And then once you clay the prop up, sometimes I like the drill rod to fit just a hair loose. Come in here. And I'll do this. I'll make sure this is. And this is just a drafting square. And what I've done is cut the corner out of it so it bridges the prop.
Yeah.
So, another thing I do on these drafting squares, when I'm working on foam wing templates and stuff, I want, let's say this is a template and I got a center line down the foam wing template. I need to mark a line 90 degrees to that center line for my leading and trailing edge. I take this drafting square and I scratch or scribe a little scratch in it 90 degrees to this. So then you can take this square and you put the scratch mark right where your center line scratch mark is. And you can lay that and get it pretty much exact right on that line. So then when you come out here, you can get a 90 degree.
Right.
So no matter where the line is, you can line this square up and get your 90. Or vice versa. I mean, if you scratch the line over here, you know, as it comes out this way, then you can get it at 45 or whatever, or 30, whatever your square is. So. this thing here, since you're dealing with a bigger quantity of resin, I use a bigger scale. Hopefully my batteries don't go. This is an old house scale. And, it's got a bubble in it. Okay, it's got leveling feet.
Yeah, see, this cloth you gave me here is 2 ounces. This is an inch. This is 1.5 ounces.
Okay. Can you tell the difference?
Yeah, oh yeah. Mine's tighter weave.
Okay. Experiment with it.
Oh yeah. I've got some 5 ounce. I'll try 3 or 4. You might want to build up thickness or something.
Yeah.
You can't build up thickness with 1/2 ounce cloth. You know, you gotta.
Yeah.
It's a waste of time to go in there and do that. Just use that on the outside. The lightweight stuff on the outside surfaces.
Yeah.
Damn, that's like right downtown there with that scale.
The nice thing about this scale, John, it's for 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Within 1/2 gram.
Pretty doggone good now.
Yeah. So you set it up to where it's not rocking. And it's got a bullseye level in it. Yeah. This plate goes over the top. And then you zero it. I always press it just for the heck of it. That's in ounces. 0.6 of an ounce. 15 grams. 0.03 pounds. 0.015 kilograms. 6 ounces. But it rounds. It's pretty accurate, but I mean it rounds a little bit because you take 0.6 of an ounce, but then you come over here at 15 grams, so there's probably a few
It's only
decimals.
good for so many plate settings.
But,
yeah.
So if I'm making a prop or a bell crank, I use the triple beam scale, which is 1/10 of a gram resolution, or really you can go in between the marks and get less than 1/10. But let's say you're weighing an airplane, it's pretty neat because let's say you put the cradle up here, okay, right here, 370 grams, zero it. So now that's your tear weight.
Right.
So when you start weighing resin, you set your bucket on here, you zero it, then you
And my
know.
little scale's got a tear.
Yeah. Well,
Something on it.
the triple beam doesn't have a tear weight.
Right.
So that's the beauty of this. So always wanted to take this to the Nats and weigh airplanes because I know this is dead on.
Hey, is everybody's lying?
I used to have a set of
Yeah.
little like beam weights
Yeah.
that were accurate, and you could sit on there and you could calibrate your scale and make sure that it was perfect.
Yeah. Now I bought this scale used and it was calibrated before I bought it.
Well, probably not perfect because I mean, if you do this perfect, it's all done in a freaking chamber,
Yeah.
you know, and
Not done around sawdust.
temperature controlled and everything else.
So Central Scale Incorporated, 4915 East 16th Street. They're still not there. It's calibrated on the 1995. And that's probably when I bought it. So
That's not an inexpensive unit right there. That's
I bought this.
nice.
I bought this in early 90s and I paid over $550 for it and was used. So I'm sure back then this lab scale was probably $1,000 scale.
Oh,
Spare no expense for the hobby, right? A buddy of mine, Rod, he said might look into a bread scale. So a bread scale, he said, is
Gotta run the
really,
vacuum.
really accurate because of the way they have to mix it. Where's that little metal? This stuff sands real easy when you want to sand a little bit. When you have to get a whole block, you know, that's when it gets
It
tough.
starts laughing at you.
Yeah, yeah. Here's another tip for you guys. These guys already know it. Say you have a block and you need to know where the high spot is. Take this aluminum. Right there is your high spot. You see right there? It's a little bit lower here than here. I mean,
Tell how symmetrical you are
Yeah.
with that. And then it'll-
yep.
Oh, she's special.
That's why I like when you sand something that's got a lot of laminations, when you're sanding the curve, all the curves, you know, match, and that the lamination joint will actually tell you where you're at on the sand.
Might want anything to drink?
I'm good right now, but I'm starving to death. I had one. No.
I don't know how you ate 10 pounds of steak last night.
20-ounce prime rib, was it? Or not a
Baked
prime rib,
potatoes,
it was a-
salad, and roll, and two baskets of rolls.
What do you guys do?
Where do we go?
Okay.
Roadhouse. I can't keep them straight. There's the Roadhouse, and then there's two other
Roadhouse and then Outback,
Outback, and there's another one.
Ponderosa.
Well, there's something else even fancier than that. So I don't know. I'll let you be the judge. I mean, it's starting to come in a little bit. I'd take a little bit more. I'll tell you what. Holler up to John, or I'll go up and get it. I'm going to go up here and get that gallon of resin. Get it down here where it's warmer. You guys have enough plastic to do the canopy?
Yeah.
I was going to bring 3 more 4x8 sheets, but I thought you had enough.
Well, here it is again. Just me, standing. Let's see if anybody had anything to say. 18 and 12. Nothing to say. Okay. I don't know why this stuff ain't sanding faster.
Well, it's all right. It's going.
Feels like I've sanded in China.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you had to take off a lot. I mean, that thing sunk in probably 1/8 of an inch. Let's see.
I'll be glad when I get to the 320,
What do you have there?
80.
What did John do with them pliers? You have them sitting out here.
There's all kind of pliers right back there.
Put them up. Top box, bottom drawer.
Where are they at?
Top box, bottom
Oh,
drawer.
okay. Get into this can here. Do you ever save those rings? You know, it sounds stupid, but if you ever want to trace an arc somewhere,
Yeah,
I mean,
circle.
I might keep that.
Yeah.
It sounds stupid, but do you have a can opener or do you just use the pliers?
Screwdriver half the time.
It's
Go
already
in the back. Yeah, go in the back on the left.
You ready to mix already? You haven't played up the prop or nothing?
No, I know. I just want to take a look at this and
Need to get some paper down on.
I want to see how much settling is in it. Now this stuff, when you actually mix the hardener in it, it gets a little bit thinner.
I've got gotta go find it. I've got like a piece of 1/4-inch music wire with like a Z-bend in it.
You know what, I think,
Or would that put too much air in it?
no, I think this is pretty much mixed. And one of the things I found out about this casting resin, I've had it sitting there for years and it hardly separates.
That's good.
A lot of the polyurethane casting resins, you know, you'll see the settling of granite dust or stone dust or whatever they fill it with. And this stuff here it's pretty dang good. Now,
They made, well, how long did you get that?
I don't know, 3 weeks maybe?
They may have mixed that stuff up before they shipped it out, you know?
Yeah.
to make
Oh, yeah.
sure.
they probably did. Yeah, so I mean, it's not gonna settle, this stuff won't settle in that amount of time. The other thing I like to do is I'll take this rod and I'll go to the bottom and I'll scrape it. And I'll pull the bottom up and I'll look at where I scrape it and see if it's got more color in it or it's a different color.
They didn't fill it all the way up, how come?
Well, that's just like Imron and everything else. By the time you put this in there, now it's a gallon. You see what I mean? They're giving you a gallon, but that's with the hardener and the resin.
Only a
They didn't
gallon.
give me that that hardener, I had to buy
I know.
it. They didn't give me nothing.
Well, it comes together.
I know it was $150 some for just that gallon of resin that I got and the hardener with shipping. There was like $23 shipping on a gallon and a quart.
Yeah.
Oh, you're taking my $100 screwdriver.
It's run. It's run. Hey, another thing, John, if you ever go to Cleveland, there's a place up there called Freeman. And they have a lot of
Yeah, I've heard of Freeman.
it's right up there, right on almost on the lake. And
Did we ever go to Cleveland while we were there?
Is that a smooth on
no, it's
place?
no.
There's a smooth on place up there too, I think.
Okay. Now Freeman, that's where I get the DTO 81 filler material.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Boy,
Now this clay, I ordered some clay for this, my props or layouts. So there's a place in Indianapolis called Amico, American Art and Clay Company. And I said, I just want some simple clay. I said, I bought some years ago and I said it worked out perfect. It was green, it had sulfur in it though. You couldn't use it on a rubber because it wouldn't cure. So she said, yeah, we got it. And she sent me this, and it's different than one I had years ago. But she said, now this is the Gumby Clay. She was so proud of it. She said,
Gumby Clay.
she said, this is what they made Pokey and Gumby out of. So,
Bullshit.
no, they sold it
Oh, really?
for the animation people when they did Gumby. This is the same formulation is Gumby. Now, I don't know where Pokey's at because that's orange, but when we're laying up this prop, if we use this clay, it's Gumby.
I had a niece that was into clay. Well, I guess it was moldy. But she would make all these little figures out of this clay-like stuff, and then you bake it and it turns rock.
Yeah, it's called polymer clay.
Yeah, it was really neat. She'd make all these real beautiful little figurines. And
Yeah. Well, sometimes they make jewelry out of like earrings or different things.
make little characters, little cartoon characters and stuff, you know. That she was a pretty good artist too, so that helped tremendously.
Now, normally if I was at my house and this was my resin, I just wipe all that resin off and just throw it in the trash. Since it's Sparky's, I actually peeled it off of the screwdriver and wiped it on the, because
You never know, you might need that
yes,
much.
we might need that, whatever's underneath that rim. So I just want to let you know, I'm thinking of it. I'll make sure that.
We'll get some paper down here in a minute.
The other thing I do, if I were you, starting with this prop, you can do it or you don't have to, but I would. But I'd take the dimensions of that box and write down the dimensions, what prop it is, how much resin it took, how much weight it took to fill it, what the ratio was, the product you made the mold out of. So that way, when you go back years later or you want to reference it, let's say next year you want to make a 2-blade, you think, well, you know, here we go, we got this and this and this, so it gives you a starting point to do.
You already knew how much materials and everything.
You don't have to write nothing down.
Well, there you go. That's true. If you want to go through a million videos.
Well, you know what video it is because it
Yeah.
says prop on it.
Okay. The other thing is, and I've made this mistake, I was making molds. Somebody sent me a sample of the resin, so I'd make a mold out of it. And I have no idea exactly what that resin was. So if I take that mold, when it's done, and I engrave in the mold, it's HAC 560 with 9234, and it's good for this temperature, then I know. Now, it really wouldn't matter until you actually have to bake it. So it's nice to know if you've got a room temp mold or a 350 degree mold. Because obviously if you take a room temp mold and you stick it in the oven over 150 or 200, then it's going to be trouble.
Now this mold will room temp cure,
It'll cure at room temp, yeah.
then it'll fully cure when we put a prop in it, right?
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll make the mold top and bottom, and it'll feel like it's hot. I mean, it's hard, it'll be fine. But then when we get it all done, before there's a prop made out of it, if you want to bring it to the house on the way to St. Louis or something, bring it over and we'll stick it in my oven. And we'll cook it, and we'll put the post-cure schedule on it and get it to probably 250 or 300 degrees. And what I'd like to do on this prop is, when you lay it up, is put the mold in the oven at 200. Pull it out, set it on your bench, and start laying it up. HTR 250, it's sort of on the thicker side a little bit, but it basically turns to water and it wets out almost on its own. You close the mold and you stick it back in the oven at 200 and you just let it cure. And then you'll get that shiny prop, whatever you did with it.
I can bring it to home.
Yeah, so anyway, I got that look. Of that shiny
I don't know
prop.
how I do see symmetry, just like this.
You know how I do it? Put it like this. Yeah, that's perfect.
That's how I do it. That looks about right. Good enough for government work.
It's amazing though. Like Sparky said, these are your eyes. So if you have wing sheeting and you got it, and you might be looking at it and think, damn, it seems perfect. And then you go like this.
Oh, shit.
You feel a dip between every rib and the wing.
Yeah, I'd go from here. I'd take this to the next grit finer.
Yeah, 320.
Yeah.
Clean up the mess once again.
Well, when you get that cleaned up, let's clean this table off and stick some paper down on here so we can.
You know, that's one thing I forgot to bring.
I got plenty of paper. I had plenty.
Did you eat breakfast this morning, Dan?
Yes.
See, I didn't even eat breakfast this morning.
Well, I'll tell you what. John said
I knew you ate Rick.
Sort of.
Probably had a steak and 6 eggs, half a loaf of bread. Did this come out okay?
I think it's good. Yeah.
All I did. I've been sanding a couple of days.
Yeah.
And I can kind of feel things. How long does this stuff take to dry?
Well, it really doesn't dry, it cures, but I mean, once we pour this casting, you can forget about it the rest of the day, and probably all tomorrow. You know, you get it, it's gonna sit there for a while. You know, and then you get a good cure on it. You know, usually when I make a mold, it was at least a 3-day project.
When you did past the edge, probably 6 or 7 inches or. You cut this? Yeah, you got a razor knife on you.
Well, it's dull. It'll cut it.
That's a bit.
Do you want to cover your whole bench, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, might as
Okay.
well, just,
That way we don't have to worry about getting anything on it. Now this epoxy, I mean, if I get epoxy on my glass, I just take acetone before it cures and wipe it. And that's usually all right, but the thing is though, if this stuff actually cures on the glass and you try to scrape it, another thing I do, John, I'll take my glass and I'll wax it. So and that way, if I get glue on it, it'll come off. I don't use any kind of spray release because that would contaminate everything else.
right,
Just a good wax, like a no silicone wax. Is really good.
yeah, you don't wanna use silicone in your shop if you can help it. It contaminates everything and nothing cleans it or eats it or anything, and
No WD-40 anywhere.
Yeah. And that's the problem. When you start getting into composites, some of your best releases are stuff like that. And I used to have one section of the garage with all I do is composites.
Is it gonna be a problem if I sand here?
No, you're good. Yeah, you're fine. Hey, John, you have any thin CA?
yeah.
So on this prop, you'd actually sanded it. And there's some bare wood right here.
Yeah, did I oversand?
Nope, that's fine.
Had to get it flat.
Yeah, you gotta get it where it needs to go. So we're gonna go through there with a little CA. And
Not bad for eyeball Forstner bit
no.
turning that.
Oh, let me see a pitch gauge while you got it. I mean, while we're at it. Now that he mentions that.
Here, I put it up here on top of this drill press where you can see it. I'll have to bend down and look at it.
Yeah. So when you're doing composite work, the PVA is really user friendly. You don't have to worry about putting an automotive finish on it. all you have to do is just make sure the porosity's out of it. And you have a slick surface. And you can buff it a little bit, but as long as it's stable, the PVA won't soak into it, you're good. This stuff, okay, it's different than what I got. Good CA. I got some 1,000 up there in my truck. I forgot to bring it in.
What, sandpaper?
Yeah.
John, you got some 1,000, don't you? We got some Harbor Freight 800 or some oddball thing.
If not, I'll run up there to the truck and get it real quick. It's no big deal. No big deal.
That piece you took from my house?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been
It's
sitting on.
worn out.
No, not really. Sometimes worn out papers.
What you want?
Yeah.
It don't cut quite the same, but it
Sometimes
works pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want an aggressive cut. You want it slicker for some reason.
Yeah, that's 320 turns into 400,
Yeah.
500.
And really, when you take a polishing compound or a buffing compound, you start rubbing it out. It's pretty aggressive, but you keep rubbing and rubbing. A lot of this stuff will break down and keep getting finer and finer.
There's a lot of polish this on your,
And you can take that sandpaper and rub it on a piece of cloth
Yeah,
or on a microfiber towel, and it'll take all that stuff out of the grit on the sandpaper. Works pretty good for cleaning it and getting a little longer longevity out of your sandpaper.
he likes the sandpaper.
yeah. So this super fill, I'm gonna coat that up too.
Yeah, that stuff's sort of porous.
Yeah. Which really, if you're doing a fillet, that's what you want. You want porosity
Are
because
you gonna wax that or are you gonna PVA it?
no, you gotta wax. If you spray PVA on this right now, believe it or not, with just your finger oil or contaminants, the PVA won't flow. It'll beat up. That's my experience. And if I ever get PVA that's not flowing or laying right, I hit it with more wax. You gotta wash the PVA off and then re-wax it. And
Well, that's one thing nice about PVA is it's water soluble and you can clean your stuff up. It's not leaving.
Does it go bad? Cause I got that part all that's gotta be like 3 years old, maybe 5 years old.
I don't think it goes bad. I mean, if you get clumps in it, it's like paint, you run through a strainer.
I got beeswax down there too.
Yeah. And this prop is supposed to be what?
5.
I'll tell you what, here's the way I use a pitch gauge.
Upside down.
Yeah, I do it this way. 8. Okay. At 8, we're 6.5. Here's the telltale sign. We'll spin it 180, go back to 8. And I usually let the weight of the gauge and I slide the prop and I hold it down here and I can 6.5. Okay, let's see what happens. 8. Let's see here, spin it. Go back to 8. Over 7.
Yeah.
5 3/4. Okay, right here, we've got,
Where's it supposed to be 5 pitch at what station?
okay, we're at number 8. 5 3/4. Okay, now watch. Come back at 8. 7 1/4, which tells me this blade is canted this way.
Which we can fix once it's in molded, right?
Yeah, you can start sanding on it. So this blade here,
You're only working off a guesstimeter. You can't tell the true pitch of a blade by a pitch.
no, what this is doing is giving me a reference of
That's all it does. It gives you some number,
6.5,
random number.
8. Okay, so this blade is pretty consistent, 6.5. This blade here is laid over to one side. So I come in here, and ideally, when you glue these together with feather fill or the super fill, I would have probably clamped them together with super fill.
And we did it with epoxy, and we did it on this glass.
See, that's 7, almost 7.5. Okay, and then you come over here. And then you come way down here to 5.5, 5 3/4. So this is the blade. It's tilting this way. So the best thing would have been to take your super fill and filled it up and smash it together and set it on this real delicately and just kept smashing it or tweaking it till you ran it around and had the same pitch.
That all sounds good, but how are you gonna do that when it doesn't? You know, the minute you move it, it changes pitch.
Well, that's just it. You'd have to babysit it and keep looking at it. And this is probably one of the easiest ways I've ever found. You just set it on a flat surface, okay? And I'll look here on this, and I'll scribe a little line on anything. It doesn't matter what it is. And I'll rotate it.
Yeah, you're gonna find it's right on.
Rotate it.
See, we indexed it.
Right, that's what John said. You actually went around this thing.
We chipped it off the glass.
Yeah.
So if it's out of pitch, it's in the pitch of the prop.
All right. Here's a nice fine one.
But we really want to sand on that before
Well,
making a prop.
yeah, I mean, you want to get it, well, it's up to you. I mean, it's one of these things where if you think you're going to do another iteration anyway, you know what I'm saying?
And
Hey, Sammy.
you take and put a piece of sandpaper on that, stuck it up in this grill.
Now, is this, looks like a,
Prop crew.
what's the, not probably, but he's dead. Gimli.
Well, that's a John Jordan. The only self-adhesive stuff I got is this 320 thing.
This,
Oh,
that's
oh,
too
yeah, I got that 80. That might have some 120. What's this stuff? Is that 80?
Well, we really sucked that in. That should work pretty good.
You got the 320 on it?
Yep.
So what John just gave me here, I'm sure he made this on his lathe, and looks like 1/4-inch music wire, aluminum disc and machine, faced off, and the drill rod goes in the prop, and this actually sands the back of the hub. The other thing to consider too,
Should be fine.
well, depending on how big your washer is, it's gonna, so what you want is you want a flat spot here, so when you clamp this down, that washer makes contact with the whole prop,
Yeah.
and not just the high point.
You'll be fine.
Now see, remember that prop I told you was canted? See how it dipped low there? See where it came high here? You can see from there to here on the super fill. This was the prop that was canted. See how it's high here and low there?
Yeah. What, 2,000?
No, it's an inch different in pitch.
So what is that, 2,000?
Or no. It's let me see. That's where you got your discrepancy.
But once it's in carbon, we can tweak the blade.
Right. Well, with this resin with a 250, you're not going to tweak anything. It'll be set in stone. You can stick it in boiling water and it won't move. Let's see.
So you can't repitch these propellers.
No, you can sand the pitch in. Okay. So right now, number 8. Five and 3/4.
Yeah, maybe 90 on your block.
5 and 3/4, right?
Number 8.
Okay, number 8. Turn it around. Okay. 7.
It's
Roughly a
an estimator,
Roughly a pitch.
Yeah.
So here's the way I look at it. This blade has got plenty of width. So what I'm thinking is when you pitch a prop, either increase it or decrease it, you either have to remove some leading edge or you have to remove some trailing edge.
Well, remove the leading edge wouldn't do shit.
Well, it would increase the pitch.
You can only do it. You can do it more one way than you can the other way.
What I'm saying is, if you want to make more pitch, you have to go this way, and
Right.
you have to sand into the leading edge, which in effect shortens it.
Right?
Yeah.
If you want to decrease the pitch, you have to bring it this way, which takes away from the trailing edge. And what I'm saying is, when you start pitching this prop, and if you get into this leading and trailing edge, you're actually changing the width of this blade. So,
You can tweak a wood prop.
oh, I know.
Just hot tweak it just like you do a plastic prop.
Yeah. But see,
Not
this,
quite as much, but
Piece of paper is worn out.
so once once you start flying this thing, I mean, what kind of pitch are you looking for? Did you say 5?
Yeah, 4 or 5, less than 5 probably.
So it looks like once this thing is made, you're gonna have to actually take pitch out of this thing. Okay, once you take pitch out of it, you know, we're gonna be taken from the trailing edge.
But not much.
Yeah, the other thing is, this is pretty close. The other thing is, it's not so much how it balances, it's the volume of the blade. So, the volume or the size of the area of the blade will determine somewhat how it comes out on balance. All right.
Trust me, it'll be fine.
Well, it'll be all right. I mean, it's just something you're gonna have to work with. I mean, you never know till you stick it on the plane. Elsewhere, you might have a 6, a 7, a 5, and a 4, and this thing could fly just right. I mean, you gotta just think about it. They fly with one blade on a speed ship as long as it balances. So here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna fly around just fine on a 4 pitch on one blade. And you're gonna take this 68-ounce airplane, you're gonna go vertical, and that 8 pitch on that blade is gonna bite, and that thing's gonna drive over the top of your head. So it depends on where this plane's gonna be, is what part of the prop is working. Isn't that right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Blade number 1 works in the third corner.
If it's
of the
68
hourglass,
ounces, if it's 68 ounces, it's gonna be in the trash can.
Hey, I wish you guys could have seen the look on his face. Yeah. I can see right now, this might be a real expensive prop, because this thing could be so universal.
It's cutting edge technology now.
I'm gonna have to make me one of these. Yeah, I'm gonna have to make one of those. I got a little. I'm gonna get home. All right.
I see that alone right there can change that one blade.
Yes.
So you could sit here and take this thing and literally grind it a little bit out of level and change that pitch. You know what I mean?
Without changing the other one.
But you gotta watch you don't get too much, because you want all these tips to run in the same plane.
Yeah.
You don't want one of them running out of level.
Right.
So
Because that'll make sonic noise.
well, it's gonna be noisier and I'll get out anyway.
What happened to that PA?
Right here.
Okay.
Let me get some of that stuff out of there. Only so many square inches on the table.
Yes, and the table's never big enough.
That's bigger than I got. Well, it's not bigger. Well, I've got pretty close to this, but you've got more room on your table than I do mine.
I got more room at my house than you got in your garage.
You never cease to be amazed at my shop, are you?
This is 48 by, I think it's 70.
Yeah.
And I would have made it bigger, except then I started running out of room going around the outside edges of it. It started getting too tight.
Yeah.
I didn't want to feel like I had to hold my arms up and then turn around.
Yeah.
4x8 is probably the right size. Of course, I don't know. You look at some of them aircraft shops, it's 4x20 or 8x20.
Length is sort of okay to a point. You know, when you start working around an airplane and you can fit your whole airplane on your table, you start reaching when it comes to the center. I mean, you're really overextending yourself.
Yeah. Well, I got long arms. This workbench is perfect for me, but a lot of people don't realize it, and I don't know how they do it, but they build an airplane up against the wall.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then I like to be able to work, especially when you're gluing everything together, setting it up, the alignment.
The other day we were lining Sparky's elevator, you know, to the wing. We put some pieces of tape on the back of the wing and stood back 10 feet and eyeballed that wing, you know.
Yeah, it makes a difference.
This modeling stuff, there's a lot of pluses and minuses, you know, that it's not the Titan, the king of CNC, Titan tolerances, you know, where you're
here's the
working
thing.
on aerospace.
Well, like I said before, John, you could take an airplane and set it on a granite tooling plate and get it to the thousandth of an inch. If it's out of balsa wood,
You walk outside and it's gonna change.
set it on the tarmac, get a little humidity,
Yeah.
and then bring it back on a granite plate. You'd probably be scared to death on how much it actually moved.
Well, they'll show you that if you take a piece of metal that you're measuring that wasn't in the clean room
Yeah,
where all the measuring equipment is, and you bring it in there, if you don't leave it sit in there for 3 or 4 hours to acclimatize,
yeah.
all your measurements will be off.
Here's another thing I've done. Taken a piece of 16th or 8th or whatever, 3 by 36 piece of wood, lay it on plate glass, and look at it. It'll lay there perfectly flat. Come back the next day and pick it up, and then you flip it over, let it sit there, and it'll move again.
Mm-hmm.
So this stuff is constantly pulling moisture and giving it out. So that piece of wood is going like this, and then you flip it, and it goes the other way. I had a piece of wood on top of the stack. Normally you take lumber, right, and you stack it and you weigh it down like big 3/4 inch oak. I had a piece of it sitting on top. So I set it on top, and it go like this. So this board will go like this because this was drying. I take it and I flip it. After about 2 weeks, it'll start going this way. So every day before work, I go out and I flip it. After a while, it pretty much, I had the furnace vent and it would blow over the top of it. So it would dry the top out.
Yeah, you look at a guy that's really into woodworking and he'll have a room that's climate controlled and moisture controlled.
Yeah.
And he'll wax all the ends of all his boards and he'll keep the temperature and the humidity just perfect in that room. And different kinds of woods take different humidities and stuff. And there's a little bit of an average that you can go on that stuff, you know. The stuff on the top of the rack might be 68% humidity up there. And when you get down to the bottom of the rack at floor level, it might be 72%. Moisture content or something. So
Where's your 1,000 grit, John?
in that bottom drawer over there somewhere, Sparky, you'll have to just search around in there. Not necessarily stacked in order.
This is 600. Well, this has been used on.
Move that chair out of the way. You know,
Been used on
that
metal.
way off the side somewhere. We don't need that.
I don't want to impregnate aluminum into the mold. That's 2,000. That's too much. Here's 600 right here. 600. This should be all right. Sand it down to 600, don't you think, Dan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I got 2,000 right here. You can buff over the top of it. You know, we were joking around about this prop being different pitches on each blade. But honestly, that might be an advantage if you had these two blades were a 1/2 inch pitch greater than that. I mean, so when the thing started to slip, I'm not an aerodynamist, I'm not a really smart person, but something tells me that maybe it'd be like the prop switching gears under a load.
I know what you're talking, what you're trying to say about that, but I don't think it holds true. The problem arises is you got one blade traveling in the dirty area of the blade prior to it. And now you got 4 blades doing that. That's why a 1 blade crop is more efficient than a 2 blade or a 3 blade or 4 blade. So
The best thing to do with that is make it and try it.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, because
your own experiment.
there's a lot of stuff that doesn't translate when you get into this modeling stuff, isn't that right?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You know, you can't scale air. You know, there's no scaling effect to that. There's no scaling effect to temperature. There's no, you know what I mean? We were talking the other day about building that P47 exact scale, all metal. Anything that was metal, anything that was rubber, whatever, exact scale.
Yeah,
That it'd be like building with aluminum foil.
yeah, yeah.
You know, the sheet metal would be so thin that you couldn't hardly even handle it to build it.
Yeah. Okay, we got the grain filled. So there's some wax I got years and years ago. I'm almost out of it. But this stuff, it's really thin. And it worked out good because of the bell cranks and how small the parts were. It's almost like lemon pledge or something. It's really,
It smell like good?
it's got a wax smell. It's got you can smell it, and it has a lot of a solvent smell to it.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any silicones in it.
No.
I used to use lemon pledge on my airplane.
Yeah, that actually smells like some of the old car waxes that you used to get, turtle waxes and stuff. But Carnauba,
Yeah,
Carnauba's good as long as it doesn't have silicones in it. I've used that in mold making and in my cowling molds. That's what I used on there. I didn't use a release agent. I waxed the mold, or the actual plug that went in the mold.
Well, that part all wax is Carnauba.
Yeah. I've got 100% Carnauba around. I got regular wax around here, wax.
Candle wax.
Yeah, beeswax.
Perfect.
so
We used to use a lot of beeswax in carpentry. You know, you use it on your blades and stuff for cutting hardwoods and stuff to lube the blades up when you're making rip cuts and stuff like that, and put a little beeswax on your blade. Or you can use it on all your milling surface. You know, your metal lathe surfaces, your drill press tables, and all that stuff. If you put a little light coat of beeswax on it, it won't contaminate whatever you're working on there. You know, and impregnate it with.
yeah,
What happens if I just cut this off here, Dan? What do you think? Cut it straight off.
nothing. Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, just come. Well, you don't
Just
want
right there.
just come straight down.
Right here.
Yeah. Well, there's enough material right here, right?
Oh yeah, it's right here.
The only reason this is sticking back like that is because that was the size of the block to begin with,
Right.
right? Yeah, that'd save your headaches with
You know, I cut it at an angle, Sparky.
What?
I mean,
For the
you don't have
release?
to, for
Yeah.
release, if you could cut it from there, right like that, and that gives you a draft angle on it.
See, I'd like to keep this line in it, because this is where the,
Well, it'll go straight, it'll cut straight too. Just a thought.
Yeah, this is the best wax I've had. And what it is AdTech Mold Release #1.
It's
And,
unobtainium at the time.
well, I've looked for it. And AdTech, I don't know if they're out of business or.
You kidding? Because there's no shipping hardly going on.
But there was a YouTube video. These guys were using a wax, and the way they described it was just like this. And it wasn't AdTech, it was something else. But I think AdTech repackaged this wax. And it's really almost runny, but it's really it's a wet. It's not a wax. It's dry, so it goes on really slick, and you can get it into tight corners without it caking up.
Waxy.
Yeah, and the PVA. When you spray PVA on this stuff, it's beautiful the way it lays on it. So,
gotta make some noise.
I like to do all 6 sides, edges and everything. That way, if you have a little bit that creeps underneath, gets on these edges, it'll pop back off, you're not actually.
That's much better, don't you think?
Yeah, cut it square. Yeah, and then make sure the table didn't get knocked out on the saw.
Now I need to cut, I guess glue this on here.
That's how much we had that raised up, right?
Yeah. I think I'll cut it first before I do it.
You talk about eating breakfast this morning. John said that, the stuff around here is pretty non-existent as far as restaurants.
Yeah, we got 3 choices.
Well, I went into Starbucks to get a coffee, so I wanted to get some pumpkin bread or whatever that banana bread was, and they were out of that. So they had a bagel and cream cheese. I feel so weak right now, I don't even know if I can.
Yeah, you sort of missed that pound of bacon and 4 eggs and 3 or 4 pieces of toast. Good old hash brown.
I went to the meat market and I got a steak, and I also got a pound of bacon, that real nice thick stuff, all flavored up nice, smoked or whatever. So I take it out and I fry that bacon up on the grill, and then I'm gonna have a BLT, bacon, lettuce, tomato. And I thought, half pound per sandwich, and that would be good. So I toast it up, make a sandwich. I thought, no reason to quit now. I might as well just finish off this whole pound of bacon and get another sandwich. So, yeah, it was good.
What glue were you using, John?
As far as epoxies,
Yeah.
whatever you want to use on it up there. There's 5 minute and 30 minutes. You probably want to use 5 minutes on that.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Now, see, Sparky thinks all I do is sit in the chair and eat.
Because that's all you do.
Well, that's all I tell him I do.
Uh-huh.
I don't tell him about all the other stuff. all the work I do, and
The back behind all that stuff is the
What?
popsicle stick.
Behind all what stuff?
All that alcohol and stuff. There's a jar back here. It's got.
You remember when we couldn't get alcohol? We better get some more.
you know, I almost went out to the IRP or Lucas State, had the drags.
Maybe get
Well,
one, two.
I had about 4 of them up there one time. One down there. There's 3 upstairs.
I've got a year.
But still, we need to get a 5-gallon bucket of cheap thinner.
well, I used to go to the drags, and you could
I don't know
buy
what the
alcohol.
thinner cost anymore. I'll ask him.
It was what, $60, $50 or $60 the last time for 5 gallons.
40 something, I thought.
40. We got, I think we're down to a little less than 2.5 gallons, 2 gallons probably.
And when you guys clean a gun with thinner, do you put it in a big can somewhere or a bucket and let it settle so the sediment goes down to the bottom and you can skim off the top and reuse it?
No.
Now I'm talking about gun cleaning. I'm not talking about thin and paint. Now the guys that paint, let's say they use a lacquer for these doors with these HVLP or like these gray coat sprayers. They'll take a 5-gallon bucket and they'll run the thinner or the whatever the cleaning solvent is, and they'll put it in a bucket, and all those sediment will build up at the bottom, and they'll pour off the top, and they'll clean the gun again with the
Oh
same.
yeah, they're doing such large work. We're only using a 1/10 of an ounce,
So,
you
yeah.
know, 2-ounce spray gun, you know.
Yeah,
So there's no bulk that.
it's not enough to worry about.
No, we're using small HVLP guns and airbrushes. So, but the biggest thing is you don't want to use that $65-$70 a gallon thinner
Right, for cleaning the
for
gun.
cleaning a gun out. You know, get the absolute cheapest thing that'll do the job.
Yeah. Yeah, I got the same gun you have, John, that purple cheap thing, you know.
They work great. You got to set them up right. You got to. I take them apart as Harbor Freight guns. If you take them all the way apart, you'll look. And I had one that was actually pretty clean inside. The rest of them, they put silicone in there on those threads.
Yes, I've seen that.
And it'll plug the holes up, the bypass holes where the air goes through and stuff. The holes will be plugged up, or half of them will be plugged up, or whatever. So you got to take them all apart and clean them all up real good, and then meticulously put them back together again. And if you see a little burr or something, sand it off or file it off, you know, and just sort of clean them up.
Yeah.
It makes them 100% better gun.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is on that little needle that goes in there up into the point. If it's rough, polish it up. You know, just polish it.
Yes.
You don't
Take
have.
some polishing compound.
Yeah, and make it nice and smooth, and that gun will shoot 100% better.
The other thing is with a cheap gun, and of course the devil's in the detail, with a cheap gun, you adjust the needle and you look through
Got
the
a
front
gun
of the
like
gun. That's the best one. But
But see, that's too small to paint a base color on the whole airplane.
But you rotate that needle and you look at the front and it'll
You
go
can see
like
it
this.
wobble, yeah. Yeah, now see, I'm lucky I got a lathe that I can sit here and screw that needle up if
Yeah.
I wanted to.
That's the way to do it. I guess we'll go with this.
So what I need to do is make a grinder for my cross slide, to where I can put a Dremel tool or something in my cross slide, and then I could actually grind it, something, a little mini grinder.
Yeah.
12:30.
Yeah. Now Ned Morris, a buddy of mine, he had a little Atlas lathe and he had a Dremel attachment or a thing to attach it. So yeah, he turned his lathe into a
Ned, the
grinder.
speed flyer,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
know Ned.
Oh, Ned, I miss him.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's helped me out a lot.
Remember Coach Kent? He's out in Florida. He's a speed flyer. A couple of those guys got killed in a car wreck coming back from Texas.
Wow.
Speed meet.
Yeah. I think I remember hearing Ned talk about that. So,
Barry Tippett, Raoul, and all those guys from New York. Raoul, I think he might still be around. He might be retired now, but he was like a door guard or a door person for a big inn motel, you know, that
yeah.
the Beverly Hills Ritz Inn, you know.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do for lunch, John?
Got me waiting hungry for.
Whatever we can get.
We got Wendy's. That's sort of
Wendy's, Taco Bell.
Arby's. We don't do McDonald's.
Tell you what we could do. There's a Kroger 3.5 miles down. Go in there and get anything. Do you have a grill out here? Huh?
Yeah, I got a gas grill. I grill
Okay.
out all the time.
Okay, well, probably take
He's looking to go get some steaks. I understand what it is. Right up the top of Hills Crater, right down here is Walmart.
I was driving over here, I'm scoping out. Okay, let's see, we got this, we got that.
You gonna wipe that off?
Yeah, this.
The thing is, that's what's so nice about this town. The city of Dayton, Ohio.
Well, let me show you
So
this.
all the streets,
Yeah, that's
90% of the streets run north, south, and east and west.
You know,
Seriously,
yeah.
so you always know which direction you're going by a compass.
Yeah,
You can look and tell everything runs north, south, east, and west. And you can get from one end of this town and be in a whole different city to the other end of town and be in another city, all within a matter of 15 minutes.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter which direction that you go.
That wax?
Yeah, now this wax has got so much solvent in it, you really have to re-wet it, okay? See, the solvent actually remelted the film. You're looking at the film.
Yeah.
But
The film won't hurt it, right?
No, you could lay right over that film. That's not gonna hurt. PVA will go over it, but if you want the really nice, to see what's happening, you gotta remelt it with a damp rag. And then you buff that off, and then you got a microscopic layer of wax. And like I told Sparky, I said, you know, a lot of times I experiment and I try different release agents and I do this and that. I said, when I get to something like this and you've got all these hours and money invested in a plug, which is this prop, this isn't the time to start experimenting unless you have unlimited money. But you start experimenting on little parts like the helmet I was making, and if you screw it up, it's a small little part. So this thing here, we're looking for 100% success rate. And to me, 100% success is this process with PVA. I've never ever stuck a mold with PVA, with one exception.
I don't hear that.
With one exception, I'll tell you what it is. And it really it wasn't catastrophic, it just gave me a bad finish. And what I did is I took PVA on that little helmet mold and I threw it in the oven at 150 degrees. And what had happened, like I was telling John, the PVA started to melt, I think, because PVA isn't a high temp release agent. I think you're probably good to about 110 with PVA. So right now, we got it all waxed up. And now real quick, before we go to lunch, I'll show you what we're gonna do when we get back. Center this prop, and what I like to do is come in the hub. Sort of stick it down a little bit like that. And this blade's pretty good, but if you get one really thin, you got to watch it. But because you can distort the blade by jamming clay underneath it.
Yep.
So what I try to do is push the clay down. Okay, as you're pushing the clay down, you push it under the blade a little bit, and you wait till the clay. The other thing you want to do, you want to get this clay as soft as you can, and you could use a hair dryer. Monocoat dryers, monocoat's too much, you jam it down like this, and I don't think we're going to have any trouble with this blade distorting. Yeah, not here. Now out here, you got to be really careful, and you got to get this clay to where it's. And it's not going to take much to go under here. And you're going to have to work this clay a little bit. And I'm going to show you when we get back from lunch. You're going to think, well, how do you make this really neat? Because, you know, the clay's so messy. I'm not worried about smearing clay on the prop. I'm not worried about keeping my fingerprints off or anything. Just get the clay underneath. When we come back, I'll show you the technique to get it all cut out, smooth, and clean the prop. And that's where that wax will come back into play. So start at the hub and sort of keep the thing from rocking.
Gotta have Gumby under there.
Yeah, this is like the lady at Amico said, and she was proud of it too. She said, now this is the Gumby clay. This is the actual clay that they made Gumby out of.
But not the toy.
No, this was, you know how they did the...
That's called stop motion animation.
Yes, so when they did the stop motion animation, it was with a wire, and they molded
Armature.
it. Yes, and they made, and that's how they moved it. This is what Gumby was made out of. So just remember that. It's a special mold. We're going to call it the Gumby mold. And when you jam it underneath, don't worry about just jam it up as far as you need to. And don't worry, make it extra big, because when we go and trim this thing, we're going to get the right draft angle on it. And I like this clay because see how you can wipe it and you can feather the edge.
You know, a millionaire would just stick that big chunk of aluminum in a CNC machine out in his garage and
yeah,
mill him out a nice aluminum mold.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the CNC would be running. An hour later, it would outcome a billet mold, maybe out of Inconel.
Yeah. Use some ceramic milling bits, and you know they make a special coolant for Inconel too.
Yeah, Titans of CNC.
Yeah, that guy's something.
Anybody that likes metalworking, get on YouTube and look up.
I want to learn how to use SolidWorks like he does.
I'll tell you what, he drives his machines to the limit.
Yeah.
To the absolute limit. Pushes them as far as they can be pushed, and he's a stickler for finish.
Yeah.
Tolerances and finish. If they don't have a right tolerance, he'll make it again. You know, and all of his men, he expects his men to be highly professional. You know, clean cut, come in clean uniform every day, and
well, it's the same thing in this shop. I mean, it's not sterile, but you've got it organized to where when you turn around, you can grab a hold of a tool. My shop isn't really like that. I mean, not yet. I mean, it'll get there. I keep working on it, but so it looks like a disaster right now, all this stuff. But if you go in there and you start carving, you can't screw it up. You cannot screw it up at this stage, because if you undercut or something doesn't come out right, you just jam more clay there. So this isn't the stage to really worry about it being perfect. Don't worry about it.
It'll be fine.
Yeah, so we'll get it all clayed up, and we'll come back from lunch, we'll trim it, and then we'll spray this with PVA. The other thing, when the PVA goes on, I'll mention this now, and I'll mention it again. This drill rod will go in there like that, and I might jam clay down in that little few thousandths crevice and get this thing exactly vertical with this square. Once it's in there where I want it, then I'll take a paper tube, I'll roll up like a straw, and I'll put it over the top of this. It'll be wax though first, wax it, release it. Then I'll go over the top of this drill rod with paper. And what I want the paper to go almost to the bottom, because I don't want to spray PVA on this. If you spray PVA on the drill rod, what happens when it goes to release, the PVA won't release clean. What'll happen, the PVA it's on the drill rod will want to ball up as you're pulling this thing out.
In the hole.
Yes, and as you're pulling this out, the PVA is going to peel and it's going to jam this drill rod up in the hole. So you just wax this, or you can use free coat on it. But then all this will be PVA'd with this in there, but you'll mask this off with a tube. And then when you lay up the mold, the masking comes off, and that's when you do the cast. So on this kind of stuff, believe it or not, the devil's in the details. It's all this little fine stuff. It might take you an hour or two to do it, but you're making a part. And if you make a mistake here, you're going to make the same mistake every time you lay up a prop. So,
Or have a catastrophic lockup
yeah.
and throw everything away.
Wouldn't be any good.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get out of it, but so anyway, that's where we're at. Come back.
Okay, guys, we're gonna go to lunch. We've been on 2 hours.
Yeah, that's nice. I need to get me some of these. Yeah, like cutting.
We've been on 2 hours. We'll come back and finish the mold. And after that, I got my Thunderbolt on the paint stand. We're gonna mold a canopy.
Now the other thing, John, let's say you got to clean the top of the prop. So with this clay, this wax is like a solvent to this clay. See how it melts?
Nice. Nice, yeah.
Yeah, so it won't get the big stuff, but see how it's melting that clay?
Mm-hmm. You sort of take a little layer after layer after layer on it.
Right, so when you got fingerprints on this with clay, you come back over it.
Nice.
So, and you can even get very gently, I mean, you just go right there.
Yeah, because if you leave a fingerprint in there, it'll come out. You'll have a fingerprint on your prop.
Yeah. And that's the other beauty of this really thin wax is if a paste wax like car wax, it'd be too thick to do that. You have to rub the heck out of it. It's got enough solvent in it where you can go over that clay right there and you can rub that clay off. See that? Just rub that clay off of there, and then you take the cleaner part and get the film just like that, and that's how you get a really good mold on it. Are we still on?
Yep. All right, guys. We'll be back after lunch. Fair winds, tight lines. See ya.